This is Trish MacGregor with your Star Power Astrology forecast for July 2026. Thank you for joining me. If you'd like an astrology reading, contact me through themysticalunderground.com. I need your date, time, and place of birth. Okay, keep in mind that Mercury is retrograde in Cancer until July 23rd. In Eastern Time, it turns direct at 6:58 p.m. And Pacific Time, it turns direct at 3:58 p.m. The Mercury Retro tempers the new moon and Cancer opportunities on July 4th. The next Mercury Retrograde isn't until October 24th, and unfortunately, that one will coincide with midterm elections. Here are the other important dates. On the 3rd, Mars and Uranus conjunct in Gemini, Pacific Time. And on the 4th, Eastern Time, Mars and Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius on the 5th. On the 12th, Sun and Mercury are conjunct in Cancer. On the 14th, there's a new moon in Cancer. The 18th, Uranus and Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius. The 23rd, Mercury finally turns direct. And on the 29th, there's a full moon in Aquarius. Okay, Aries. On the 3rd, Pacific Time, and on the 4th, Eastern Standard Time, the Eastern Daylight Time, the conjunction of Mars and Uranus in Gemini occurs in your 3rd house of communication. You may be fired up about something and text, email, or post about it. Just remember that Mercury is retro, so the content may be misunderstood. The 5th brings the trine between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. In spite of Mercury being retro, it's a good day to touch base with your network and discuss what's new and your plans for the rest of the year. The conjunction of the Sun and Mercury retrograde in Cancer on the 12th occurs in your 4th house, home, family, and your personal environment. With Mercury retro, this conjunction may be troublesome. Arguments and disagreements at home, within the family, and within your personal environment. Try to referee if you can. Otherwise, just retreat. The new moon in Cancer on the 14th would usually bring new opportunities into your home and family life. It may still do that, but they won't show up until after the 23rd when Mercury turns direct. Possibilities: you find the right roommate, you and your current romantic partner decide to move in together, you found the place where you'd like to move. The trine on the 18th between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius should facilitate the development of new ideas for your brand and network. It may still do that in spite of Mercury's behavior, but don't communicate them until after the 23rd. On the 23rd, Mercury turns direct at 3:58 p.m. Pacific Time and 6:58 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So go celebrate. There won't be another retro until October 24th. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th is conjunct Pluto and Uranus and Gemini trines both of them. Now is the time to communicate your unusual ideas for your brand to your professional or personal partner and decide when to implement them. Taurus. On July 3rd Pacific Time, on the 4th Eastern Time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini in your 2nd house of income. A lot of your energy is going into making money, perhaps in an unusual way, and a positive surprise could occur with this conjunction. A bonus, being paid early, but keep in mind that Mercury is still retrograde. On the 5th, Mars and Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius. This one brings in income as a direct result of something you're doing professionally. There may be a lot of communication about whatever this project involves. Take nothing for granted, though, because of this Mercury retrograde. Double-check everything. The 12th brings another conjunction of the Sun and Mercury in Cancer in your 3rd house. Usually this terrific conjunction would be fun, with lots of communication flying around in your neighborhood. But with Mercury misbehaving, miscommunication flourishes. So be careful about what you say and be as clear and concise as possible. The new moon in Gemini on the 14th should bring new opportunities for earning money. But with Mercury acting up, these opportunities may not surface until after Mercury turns direct on the 23rd. But if something does surface, be sure to research it and make sure it's not a scam. The trine on the 18th is between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. So your income area and your career and profession area. This should be positive, but again, Mercury is still retrograde. Still, it could bring a surprise payment for a project you've taken on in your career. On the 23rd, Mercury finally turns direct in Cancer. Go celebrate. There won't be another one until October 24th. On the 29th, the full moon in Aquarius illuminates your career area. You can clearly see now what works and what doesn't. If some aspect of your career is reaching completion, it's the natural part of a cycle. So don't fret about it. Something else will open up. Gemini. On the 3rd, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in your sign, Gemini. Usually this would be an exciting combo with a flood of unusual ideas and motivation to move forward. But with Mercury still misbehaving, you may take detours into other areas. Be careful you don't say or write something you may regret later. On the 5th, the trine between Mars in your sign and Pluto in Aquarius is terrific under usual conditions. You communicate like a storm is headed your way with an urgency and determination, and your 9th house is listening. Your worldview, spirituality, belief system. But with Mercury acting up, things may go haywire with communication, timing, people in your personal life. The 12th brings a conjunction between the Sun and Mercury in Cancer in your 2nd house, income area. And remember, Mercury is still retrograde in Cancer. You'll be talking and communicating about income, money, or values, and usually this communication brings positive results. But with Mercury doing its retro thing, you'll feel the tension and unease. But if you function from an intuitive level, you'll be telling that Mercury retro to take a hike. The new moon in Cancer is on the 14th. Usually this would usher in new opportunities for increasing your income, a new job, a raise, a freelance gig, an additional assignment. These opportunities may still surface after Mercury turns direct on the 23rd, but just be sure to research them, anything that shows up, and make sure they aren't scams. On the 18th, Uranus in your sign trines Pluto in Aquarius, so your spirituality and belief system should be humming along, bringing in new ideas, but Mercury is still pouting and sucking its thumb in the corner, so your communications and thoughts may be a little off. However, now that you're aware of that possibility, you can use this time to its fullest potential by simply being careful about what you think and communicate. 23rd is the magic date. Mercury turns direct in Cancer. You and Virgo, the two signs ruled by this, should go out and do something fun. The 29th brings a full moon in Aquarius, your 9th house. You may plan a trip overseas. Good, you've earned it. Cancer. My condolences, Cancer, since Mercury is retro in your sign until July 23rd, so that tempers all the aspects. On the 3rd and 4th, depending on whether you live in Eastern or Pacific time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini. On the 3rd Pacific, on the 4th Eastern. This one occurs in your 12th house, your personal unconscious, and everything that happens behind the scenes. Mars usually urges you forward in whatever you're doing. Maybe it's a gig behind the scenes, a second job you've taken on for extra money. Or maybe you have a new therapist or counselor. Uranus brings unusual ideas and actions that often surprise you. Some of them may be skewed because of Mercury's antics. The 5th brings a trine between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. This beauty impacts your 12th and 8th houses. You're motivated to make money, and if you take it on a job behind the scenes as a ghostwriter, producer, in some other capacity, you should be paid promptly. But if there's an issue with payment, blame Mercury. The money may not arrive until after the 23rd. With the Sun and Mercury retrograde, with the Sun and Mercury retrograde conjunct in your sign on the 12th, don't get too excited about today. Usually this would be a pleasant, fun-filled day with a lot of talking and emailing to friends and colleagues about whatever is going on. Instead, communications may go awry. Yes, it's unfair that a new moon in any sign happens during a Mercury retro, but on the 14th, the new moon in Cancer occurs. New opportunities should appear in your personal life that could be virtually anything that benefits you. But these opportunities may not surface until after the 23rd. If something does surface that appears to be a new opportunity, research it. Make sure it's not a scam. The 18th features a trine between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. So this one impacts your financial axis. Usually it would be positive, but again, you may not see the results of this one until after the 23rd, when Mercury turns direct. And on that day, make sure you go out and celebrate, because now your life can move forward again without glitches. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th occurs in your 8th house. With this full moon, you're able to see what works for you in the area of shared resources and what doesn't. You should be able to come up with a plan to correct what doesn't work in insurance, credit, and mortgages. You also get psychic help. You may. through dreams in your meditations on long walks where your head is clear. Leo, keep in mind that Mercury's retrograde in Cancer in your 12th house until the 23rd, which tempers all the positive aspects. The conjunction of Mars and Uranus in Gemini happens on the 3rd in Pacific time and the 4th in Eastern time. It occurs in your 11th house and should provide some great ideas about how to boost your network or brand visibility. At the very least, prepare and send out a newsletter to members of your network and explain what your plans are for the network for the rest of the year. The trine on the 5th should benefit your network and membership in spite of the retrograde. It's between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. A business partner is helpful in moving things forward. If there's any miscommunication between the two of you, take care of it immediately. The conjunction of the Sun and Mercury retrograde in Cancer on the 12th should be a fun day with a lot of communication with friends, but thanks to Mercury's antics, the fun part of this may go south rather quickly. Grit and bear it, Leo. The new moon in Cancer on the 14th should bring new opportunities for things you do behind the scenes. Second job, temporary gig, therapy, counseling, whatever it is. But again, Mercury delays the new opportunities until after the retro ends. But if something does show up, research it to make sure it's legit. The trine on the 18th of Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius usually would be a terrific boost for your network because of the help of a business partner. It may still turn out that way, but just be careful what you communicate and to whom. Finally, on the 23rd, Mercury turns direct. It happens at 6:58 Pacific time and 3:38 Eastern. Go celebrate. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th occurs in your 7th house of partnerships. You can now see more clearly what works in these relationships and what doesn't. Aquarius is a visionary sign, so you should be able to plan how to correct what doesn't work. Virgo, keep in mind Mercury is still retro, which may delay some of the results of these positive aspects. On the 3rd Pacific time and the 4th Eastern time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini in your career area. This will result in unusual ideas that you apply to your professional life. Mars provides the fuel and energy, and Uranus brings the ideas. Whether you're self-employed or have an employer, implement your ideas after Mercury turns direct on the 23rd. The trine on the 5th is between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. This one connects your daily work routine with your professional life. Miscommunication flourishes during these retros, so hold on to your ideas until after Mercury turns direct. The 12th brings a conjunction of the Sun and Mercury in Cancer in your 11th house. If Mercury were behaving, this conjunction would favor touching base with your network with a newsletter. However, again, you may want to wait till after the 23rd. It's unfair that the universe has Mercury retrograde during a new moon in Cancer. The new opportunities to promote your brand and communicate with your network are somewhat muted until after the 23rd. But if something does surface, do your research. Make sure it isn't a scam. The 18th features another trine. Uranus and Gemini trine Pluto and Aquarius, career and daily work. Under normal conditions, this would favor implementing your unusual ideas in your daily work. Again, it may be waste, but best to wait until after the 23rd. Finally, on July 23rd, Mercury turns direct. Now your life moves forward again without communication snafus, or at any rate, with fewer of them. So go celebrate. The next retrograde isn't until October 24th. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th occurs in your 6th house. Daily work and how you maintain your daily health. You may decide to change your exercise or work routine because now you can see what's working and what isn't. Libra, with Mercury still in retrograde, the impact of some of these aspects may be delayed until after the 23rd when good old Merc turns direct. So on the 3rd Pacific time and the 4th Eastern time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini in your 9th house. This one may trigger a hunger for foreign travel. If so, do your planning now and buy your tickets after the 23rd. Or if you're in the education segment of your life, you may decide to go to grad or law school. Just don't apply until after Mercury turns direct. And until then, do your research. The 5th should be an interesting day, even with Mercury misbehaving. Mars and Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius. It looks like you're drawing on your belief system in some sort of creative project. Mars fuels your physical energy, and Pluto seizes it and creates a wonder. Go for it, Libra. The 12th brings a conjunction of the Sun and Mercury in Cancer in your career area. Remember, Mercury's still retrograde. You may believe you know exactly what you want to say to someone in your professional life, a colleague, employer, client. But instead of communicating it, jot it down. Think about it. If you still think it should be said after the 23rd, then go for it. The new moon in Cancer on the 14th happens in your career area, the 10th house. That's where the new opportunity should appear, but perhaps not until after the 23rd. But if something does appear, research it, make sure it's not a scam. The opportunities could be a new profession and career, a new boss, employer, or client, a new goal or ambition. It seems unfair that any new moon occurs during a Mercury retro, but when it does, be patient. The 18th features a trine between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. This usually would be a terrific aspect for an enjoyable day doing something creative or spending time with your kids or a romantic interest. It may still be that. Be careful you don't blurt anything you'll later regret. Finally, the 23rd rolls around and Mercury turns direct in Cancer. Things in your professional life now turn around and you can see progress. Go celebrate. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th happens in your 5th house. You now have a clear picture of your professional life, what works and what doesn't. And you may come up with a strategy for correcting what doesn't work. Scorpio. Mercury is still behaving until the 23rd, which impacts these various aspects. The conjunction of Mars and Uranus in Gemini happens on the 3rd Pacific time and on the 4th Eastern time, and it happens in your 8th house. Usually this might indicate a surprise inheritance or a break in taxes, insurance, credit, or mortgages. It may still indicate that, but not until after Mercury turns direct. The other possibility is that you have a psychic experience of some kind. As a Scorpio, that wouldn't be all that odd for you. But if it happens, it's likely to be unusual, even for you. The 5th brings a trine between Mars in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius. This trine connects your 8th house and 4th. Usually, this aspect might result in money or a break in stuff like mortgages, credit, etc. But with Mercury retro, that may not happen until after Mercury turns direct on the 23rd. The conjunction on the 12th is that of the Sun and Mercury retrograde in Cancer in your 9th house. Hope you're not traveling overseas now, or for that matter, not traveling anywhere else either. Although it should be a good day, things with travel and communication may get messed up rather quickly. Finally, frankly, it strikes me as unfair of the universe to have a Mercury retro during a new moon. The one on the 14th is in Cancer, where Mercury is misbehaving. This means that new opportunities are likely to be delayed until after the 23rd. The possibilities: a trip overseas, applying to graduate or law school, being invited to teach a workshop on spirituality. If any such opportunities surface online, research them to make sure they aren't scams. The 18th brings another trine between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. Again, this is happening during a retrograde, so it actually should be a terrific day where money lands in your pocket. May not turn out that way at all. Then finally on the 23rd, Mercury turns direct in Cancer. Go celebrate. There won't be another Mercury until October 24th. On the 29th, the full moon in Aquarius occurs in your 4th house, home, family, your personal environment. Now you can see what works in your home and personal environment and what doesn't. And with Mercury now behaving, you should be able to come up with a plan for correcting what doesn't work. Sagittarius. Mercury will be retrograde until the 23rd, and that will impact the effect of these various aspects. On the 3rd, Pacific time, and the 4th in Eastern time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini in your partnership area. Usually this would be positive when you and a partner act on an unusual idea, event, or situation together. But with Mercury retro, the combination could lead instead to miscommunication and disagreement about it. On the 5th, Mars and Gemini trines Pluto and Aquarius. The trine connects your 7th and 3rd houses. A partner, professional or personal, is helpful with a communication project of some kind. It might be a newsletter for your network, blog posts related to your brand, or something related to your neighborhood. Again, though, the Mercury retro may screw things up in some way. The 12th brings a conjunction of the Sun and Mercury retro in Cancer in your 8th house. Usually this combination could bring advantages in credit, mortgages, and insurance. It may still do that, but not until after the 23rd. If something does show up, do your research and make sure it's not a scam. The new moon in the 14th ordinarily would bring in new opportunities for your 8th house. But again, with Mercury retro, these may not show up until after the 23rd. However, the 8th house also rules the paranormal, so you may have a psychic experience of some kind, telepathy with a family member, a psychic dream, the sighting of a spirit. The trine on the 18th is between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, your 7th and 3rd houses. This should lead to some fascinating conversations with a partner, a sibling, or even with a neighbor. But with Mercury still retro, be careful that the discussion doesn't turn into a disagreement or argument. Finally, on the 23rd, Mercury turns direct. Cheer and go celebrate. The next one is between October 24th and November 13th. The full moon in Aquarius on July 29th will be free of Mercury retrograde. It occurs in your 3rd house of communication, so chat away today, Sag. Email, text, have friends over. It's a great day to visualize what you'd like your own future to look like. Capricorn. Keep in mind that Mercury is still retrograde. On the 3rd, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in Gemini, your 6th house. Usually this would indicate a profusion of communication energy and conversations about unusual things that could be used somehow in your daily work. This may occur, but it's also likely that there may be miscommunication too. And by the way, this conjunction happens on the 3rd in Pacific time and on the 4th Eastern time. The trine on the 5th is between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. This should result in money for you, additional income. But thanks to Mercury, there may be a glitch in getting paid promptly, so stay on top of things. Handle miscommunications as they occur. With the Sun and Mercury retrograde conjunct in Cancer on the 12th, what should be a terrific day could be filled with communication snafus. Just exercise good judgment in your communication so you don't get into an argument with anyone. The new moon in Cancer on the 14th should bring new partnership opportunities, but once again, Mercury retro may delay them. Whatever surfaces today should be researched to make sure it isn't a scam, particularly in the romance dating department or in the business partner department. The 18th brings another trine, this one between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, and it connects your 6th and 2nd houses. You should be getting money from something you're doing in your daily work. But with Mercury still retro, you know the drill on this one. If there's a glitch in getting paid what you're owed, take care of it as soon as possible. Finally, on the 23rd, Mercury retro ends. Go celebrate. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th is free of Mercury's retro. Good thing, too, since it occurs in your income area. You now have some unusual ideas about how to increase your income, so get busy with your plan, Capricorn. Aquarius. Mercury is still retrograde, and that's going to affect these various aspects. On the 3rd Pacific time and on the 4th Eastern time, Mars and Uranus are conjunct in fellow air sign Gemini in your 5th house. Usually this would be a great day to dive into any creative project in which you're involved or to spend time with your kids or romantic partner. But with Mercury retro in your 6th house, you may want to reconsider all that. In fact, it may be a good day to just stay at home and do whatever you feel like doing. The trine on the 5th is between Mars and Gemini and Pluto in your sign Aquarius. This aspect usually favors creative work that your muse would tackle with absolute joy. That may still happen, but there may be some miscommunication involved. Just don't submit anything until after the 23rd. The conjunction of the Sun and Mercury retro in Cancer on the 12th would usually be a fun day, lots of animated conversation with colleagues. Conversation may still be animated, but not in the way people would prefer. Disagreements and miscommunication are likely. There's a certain unfairness about a new moon taking place during a Mercury retrograde. On the 14th, the new moon in Cancer is conjunct Mercury retrograde. This means that new opportunities in terms of your daily work may not happen until after the 23rd, or if they do, there could be glitches or scam surface. Do your research. The trine on the 18th between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto in your sign is another one of those aspects that should result in an unusual day filled with unusual ideas. It may still unfold that way, but if it doesn't, don't fret about it. In 5 days, Mercury turns direct. And here we go, July 23rd. Mercury turns direct in Cancer. Yay, go celebrate. No more retros until October 24th. The full moon in your sign on the 29th will be free of the retrograde and should be a beauty. So get out and enjoy yourself. Have friends over. Now you can clearly see what works in your life and what doesn't, and you can fix what doesn't work. Pisces. Mercury Retro continues in Cancer, your 5th house, until the 23rd. It impacts these various aspects. The conjunction of Mars and Uranus and Gemini happens on the 3rd in Pacific time and the 4th in Eastern time. It takes place in your 4th house. Usually this aspect would indicate fun and excitement in your family. It may still result in that, but with Mercury Retro, it could bring about miscommunication and disagreements. Okay, the 5th features a trine between Mars and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius. This one connects your 4th and 12th houses, and it's all about your family, home, and whatever you're doing behind the scenes. Maybe you're having a garage sale, refurbishing your house, and everyone is joining in. But thanks to the retro, there may be disagreement about how things are being done. Explain, communicate as clearly as possible. The conjunction on the 12th is that of the Sun and Mercury in retro on Cancer in your 5th house of creativity. Ugh. What should be a day when you dive into your creative projects may instead be a day when you spend a lot of time emailing, texting, and talking to straighten something out. The new moon in Cancer on the 14th should result in new opportunities in creativity, romance, kids, and what you do for fun and pleasure. But again, Mercury is still retrograde, which seems totally unfair. These opportunities then may surface after the 23rd when Mercury is behaving. But if they surface before then, research them to make sure they aren't scams. The trine on the 18th is between Uranus and Gemini and Pluto and Aquarius, so between your 4th and 12th houses again. Organize something with family and friends and insist that the universe cooperate in making it a great day. In other words, rise up against Mercury retrograde. Finally, on the 23rd, the retro is over. Mercury turns direct in Cancer. Go celebrate. The full moon in Aquarius on the 29th occurs in your 12th house. If something behind the scenes is near completion, sessions with a counselor or therapist, a sidekick, don't fret about it. It's part of a natural cycle. Focus instead on what you'd like to manifest in your life for the rest of the year.
Thanks for joining the Mystical Underground. Visit www.themysticalunderground.com for the latest blog post and book info. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, or your favorite podcast app. Listen to the podcast at podcast.themysticalunderground.com. Follow Trish and Rob on Instagram at Trish and Rob MacGregor. Follow us on Twitter at The Mystic Cast. Send email to podcast@themysticalunderground.com. And until next week, thank you for listening and stay mystical.